So I'll keep it a buck and say I don't watch a lot of anime. Yeah, shocker. In the past couple of years, I've slowly dabbled into some of the art form's biggest stories, ranging from amazing to absolutely horrible. And in that time before and after I ventured past the usual starters in 2019, I was aware enough of the complicated history with portrayals of black people in anime and at least the existence of nuance coming from not just a different country, but hemisphere. This isn't at all to excuse the bad examples both in the past and now, but I at least understood the disconnect, especially when drawing examples from various depictions of black American culture of the time and before. But when a good friend of mine started telling me to watch Gachiakuta, I wasn't prepared for how black this show is. So after watching the first season, I wanted to go over a few things that make this series stand out compared to other shows, and hopefully shine some light on how good the series is on its own. First off is design. First impressions are everything with anime. A strange art style is enough to put most people off by an otherwise revolutionary piece of media. However, I think most can agree that the art in the show is amazing. There's 3 black characters in the anime at the time of recording, so we'll bounce around each of them. Even at a glance, you can tell there's proper care put into designing these characters for the world they live in. And we'll get back to that. Jabber's definitely the first example coming to mind with how popular he's become. During a panel in Anime Expo 2025, Kei Arana describes Jabber's final product being the result of drawing more freely in the early production of the manga. And while she doesn't elaborate much further, the final product clearly displays his looser nature. The way his locks flow during movement really enunciates his love for combat and action. Another thing I liked was the choice of jewelry. The way the tubes are shaped feels almost industrial with the shrunken tube in the middle. I think it adds to his design when his vital instrument is pulled out, especially as his abilities are further explained in the show. Mechanical is the best way to describe this combination of traits. Is pretty great. And while Semu and Corvus aren't seen nearly as much, what we do see with Semu at least is also a nice change. Her mini fro adds to her efficient demeanor, and the shade of lipstick sticks out well in an overall monochrome design. Also, her palms, they're actually two-toned. Animation's expensive, I understand, but the rare times that animation does this, I'll always give credit because it's not often. With Corvus, there's not much revealed about him in the anime at least time of recording, but while the lack of a tapered hairline has me concerned for his scalp in a few years, the decision itself to do so I don't mind. The way his locks are formed helps sell his foreboding presence as a character that demands respect. Back to what I said earlier though, all of these designs and more fit into the world they live in. Back in my black hair video, a decent amount of people pointed out my failure to hone in on some context of some of the media mentioned, specifically with properties like Telltale's The Walking Dead with the longer hairstyles. And while that's partly a mishap on my part, I'd agree a little more if characters like Michonne didn't exist. Where the main location of a series is filled with literal trash beasts, trash rain, and objects giving power-ups and turning into kaiju, I don't think a black character keeping a decent pair of locks is something out of the question. You can offer some suspension of disbelief with fiction. The qualifications of a giver allows for these characters to really hone in on interesting design choices, and given the trend of black character traits in the past decades, it's nice to see these in the show this visually appealing. However, one more thing that could be considered a character in of itself is the environment. There's an emphasis put on how important art plays in this world, from the intricate tattoos to the in-your-face graffiti plastered throughout Cleaner's HQ. That credit should go to Hideyoshi Ando, who's very integral to selling the details present in underground locations and beyond. Even the pre-release promotion put extra effort into an authentic rollout. Hirotsugo Ogo of Avex's animation labels talked about the various graffiti artworks plastered in multiple regions ahead of the show's premiere in an interview. All of this was hand-drawn. These type of advertisements are usually printed, but from a street culture perspective, that wouldn't feel authentic. I think it was precisely because it was hand-drawn that it had such an impact. Little details like this I have to commend. The commitment in multiple aspects of the production really helped in establishing the series' global identity. But next up is dialogue, and this still caught me off guard. One thing I forgot to mention was when I asked my friend which to pick between sub or dub, he was very adamant with the latter because of how black it was in general. So actually getting to hear the dialogue from these characters still throws me for a loop. If I can, I'll try to add examples here, but one thing pointed out to me during my research was the various differences in dialogue with some of these scenes. It seemed like the voice actors were given some creative liberty and input on lines during the recording process. Zeno Robinson actually made a few tweets about the writing process for the Jabber rap, where he's doing a victory dance, and in incredibly disrespectful context. Speaking of Zeno, his interview with Isaiah Colbert of Aftermath details his thoughts on not just the reception of the dub, but the long understood responsibilities for being a black VA in the present day with the current climate. I'd definitely give it a read. The rap was something I heavily contributed in making, and our version of it has sort of taken on this life of its own, ingrained not just in the culture of black people, but the culture of Gachiakuta and how it's received in the world. To see so many black people embrace that was really heartwarming for me. What I like about not just Zeno's but Kenesha Thompson and Kate Kunda's performances is that they are 100% unambiguously influenced by African American culture. This isn't Piccolo, this isn't Darwin, this isn't even Yoruichi somehow. You can't mistake these characters at all for being black in both appearance and speech patterns. At least for me, the closest show I've seen that got to this level of detail is Michiko and Hatchin. And with that show being set in Brazil, it has more cultural context in its environment, though I don't have the full context of the dub. Okay, last thing here is the music. Admittedly, I don't have much experience with anime soundtracks as implied earlier, but the shows I have seen consistently knock it out the park with compositions that really stick to you. Samurai Champloo, Bleach, My Hero, some of the few I've watched and even then still have those iconic memorable tracks. And Gachiakuta does the same with me. Taku Iwazaki is the main composer of the anime soundtrack, with his resume stretching pretty far like JoJo's Part 2 and Soul Eater. Described as dirty, noisy, and loud music and with low ends standing up to even the heaviest of hip-hop, the variety of moods covered definitely make this a memorable collection of music. While I don't think the low end part rings true, what we do have is pretty hard regardless. The main draw from the OST in my opinion is definitely the use of vocals. Not only did it feature various Japanese rappers like Lotus Juice, tracks like Bomb of Courage and Fiery do a good job in reflecting different cultures sonically. Sounds go from distorted rock to straight up reggae, supporting the focus on reflecting different people in multiple aspects of the production. The former especially I think is underrated, frequently varying the sub bass around and adding sounds I can only describe as esoteric, an unexpected decision being one of the lower energy entries. However, the next track on the project listing is by far the standout track, Outlaws Get No Entry. While the choice of drums with these specific samples give one vibe as we're seeing the outskirts of Canvas Town, right as we hit the establishing shot and around the 34-second mark, it commits fully to a different energy. This is where I agree with the low end comment from earlier, as the bass is knocking, perfectly bouncing out these new samples in a rhythm completely different than what many were used to. And the world began to take notice. Now I doubt I can play any of the tracks for obvious reasons, but as soon as people heard the beat off episode 9, it was an immediate hit on TikTok. Cosplayers, dancers, regular people. Even Iwasaki was caught off guard by its popularity. Turns out the track takes samples from MJ Flow and Big Frida, the latter being a pioneer in the bounce genre stemming from New Orleans, so that checks out. Though I couldn't track any other samples used in the beginning, but perhaps that's for the best. All in all though, this series is unique in a lot of ways, but it's hard to understate the work done to represent different types of people. Not just from a story perspective, but from visuals, voices, music, and even advertising, especially with the state of the anime industry. Whether or not you consider the previously mentioned to be unimpressive or bare minimum, the outside reception tells a different story. Whether you revel in the themes of punk and rebellion or simply like the music and boxing that happens on screen, the unique position the show has been put in shines through the amount of care put in behind the scenes to make this adaptation work. If you somehow haven't seen the show, I highly recommend you give it a watch. You might get something out of it. But that's pretty much all I had to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you later.